Hi everyone, I am Brian Wong. I am your progressive conservative candidate for Waverley, Fall River, Beaver Bank, and I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with Lyle this morning.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Lyle Mailman. I'm the administrator of the Beaver Bank Community Watch, and we kind of just wanted to take an opportunity to speak with the provincial candidates for this election with your Beaver Bank specific issues. So,
I don't know who made up the ridings law, but it's funny, alphabetical order-wise, I usually come last because of W, but for Waverley, Fall River, Beaver Bank comes last.
Yep. And, okay. So, tell us a little bit about yourself and what has brought you to offer as a candidate.
Well, you know what? I have been an educator for 27 years, and I have been an administrator for 14 of those. And I did run in 2013, and that's when I got really frustrated with the cuts to education at the time. And then decided to reoffer this time because of Tim Houston's commitment to fix mental health and healthcare. So working in the school system, mental health is one of our primary issues, and we don't have enough supports. We don't have enough guidance counselors or mental health practitioners that are working in the schools, and we are simply a microcosm of what goes on in society. So Tim Houston's commitment to set up a separate Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services really, it really resonated with me, and I am committed to that.
So usually there's kind of that one thing, that one little bit of inspiration that it takes a lot of courage to step up and put your name up for being a public figure, a public representative. What would you say, just that one inspirational sort of thing that said, yeah, I'm gonna put my name in.
So you know what, at the end of the day, whether it's a good day or a bad day in the school system, when I know that I've helped kids or I've helped families and been working with community, that gives you that high and that brings you back the next day. It's like playing golf and having an awful round, but have a great 18th hole. But that's what it is. And I'm getting towards the end of my career, and I enjoy helping people. That's where I get my high. And I'd love to expand that a little bit more globally, coming to the last years of working. And this is the best opportunity to do that. I do enjoy helping people.
That's fantastic, and that's what people need someone that's approachable, that we can talk to and find for a resource. And it's something that's needed in Beaver Bank for sure. So we're going to get into our Beaver Bank questions. And question number one is, Beaver Bank has had the Murchison Drive connector, Beaver Bank bypass long promised, and then removed from provincial plans. Having one way in or out has been a safety concern. We've seen Murchison be built from the 101 to Middle Sackville, the Aerotech connector from the 102 to Wellington being constructed, and with no plans to extend to the Beaver Bank Road. These connections would allow Hants County traffic and trucks from the 3 quarry operations to be routed to a collector road in the 102. This would allow for speed adjustments to prevent more crosswalks in Beaver Bank, create a transit loop so students could get to Lockview, and a second exit entrance to Beaver Bank. What are your thoughts on what can be done and what it could do for community connections?
Well, you know what? I do think community connections are important. As I said in the Laker forum, that I'm not sure if Beaver Bank, necessarily wants to be, or if that desire is there to become part of what Fall River is. And it's not just Fall River; it's Fall River, it's Waverley, it's Fletcher's Lake, goes all the way up down to Enfield. And then the other direction, it goes to Lakeview, and it goes way up to Waverley. So not everybody comes to Fall River to do their shopping. I lived in Lakeview for 8 years, and we went to Sackville to do that. And people in Beaver Bank, where do they go to do their shopping? Well, they go to Sackville. And the only thing that really connected them, and I do feel it's more of a political thing, is that Lockview was built and they sent the Beaver Bank students to Lockview. Now that's probably a done deal, and I don't know if we can change that or not. But as far as the connectors go, it makes no sense to me that one way in, one way out. And I do not know the reasons why the Margetson Drive extension was put on hold years ago, because it had been there for a long time. And with the Aerotech connector, I mean, the Aerotech connector is expected to be completed this September coming, and they haven't even started it yet. They cleared the swath of land there, so I'm not even sure what they're waiting for. But one of the things by having a connector is that it gives those big trucks an option not to be on Beaver Bank Road, because it is dangerous. It is loud, it is fast. I've tried to cross the road several times throughout this campaign. So we do need to get it back on the books. And one of the things that could be an economic benefit to the region is that if we had a connector, that means there might be a possibility to have a park, a small industrial park that will create jobs and stuff in this part of the constituency. Therefore, if we had a bus that went all the way down, we could have people employed in this area. So, you know what? I will do whatever I can in order to get people around the table again to get that Aerotech connector. I don't believe that it's still an option to do the Margetson Drive extension, because the original lands for that was where Monarch is right now. And that Monarch subdivision, I don't think it'd be fair to put a connector going straight through it. I don't think we can now. So I think that one, the way it was originally designed, was probably off the books.
Yeah, I think that's the second link connector. There was a second link connector planned when the provincial park came that way. So if you go, it was supposed to, we actually moved the house. The house was moved a long time ago, moved down the road to Kidsack, and it was supposed to be expropriated for a road that would go through by Second Lake and connect it to Cobequid. The Margetson Drive would be the 101 to Middle Sackville.
Yeah.
That house was expropriated too, moved into Wilson Lake. There's that corridor, so north of Middle Sackville and going up to Birch sort of thing. Much of that corridor, some of that has been lost as well.
Yeah. That
people think, yeah, we're just going to go around to Middle Sackville to get on the 101 instead of going down. But certainly with the build-up on the 102 corridor that's going on, it's very obvious. The cranes and the bridges.
Sure is.
New interchanges. Connecting that way makes a bit more sense, because then if you're connected to the Aerotech, then you're on the 118 into Dartmouth. You're right across the bridge.
Right.
It's
convenient. It
creates a good network. And even with the new Burnside extension,
yeah,
it gets you into Burnside.
And people in the mornings, when it's very frustrating to sit in traffic for long periods of time. And in Fall River, I mean, it used to take me sometimes 20 or 25 minutes to get from my subdivision to hit the 102. That roundabout they put in really sped traffic up. And I know there's still lineups and issues there coming off of the 118, but at least there was something done, right? And there's been nothing done out here.
Some more fine tuning.
Needs some more fine tuning.
And is it fine tuning for us? But usually a one light wait leaving Beaver Bank when the timer on the light is operating correctly. It's great. Once it goes, sometimes it's jumped around, and anyway, it's
and you
got to be aware and see what we can do.
Yeah, and at the intersection of Beaver Bank Station, where the railroad tracks still exist for some reason, and the lights and everything still exist for some reason, I used to take that way quite often to go to work, because I work in Windsor. And if it weren't for the good nature of people that were exiting their neighborhood to go to work to let you in, you would never get in. And so that is definitely an area that we need to make things flow a lot better. So, but there's a lot of issues on the road with regard to speed, with regard to safety, with, there's no sidewalks and stuff that are accessible for kids to cross, or anybody for that matter. So it seems once you're on one side of the road, you can't get onto the other side of the road.
Yeah,
so
well,
we need to work on it.
We got those. He's leading into the questions, which is how it ties together. It all ties together in our community. The province issues a list of schools getting work done to them. There's 2 schools in Beaverbank that are in desperate need for repairs, but yet they're not on the list. Kinzak received a major roof repair 6 years ago. There's mold down into the library. Harold T. Barrett is in need of repairs, and Monarch Elementary, the roof has deteriorated so bad that the shingle dirt has clogged the drains, it's filled with water, there's grass growing in them.
I hear there's a pigeon colony.
And the pigeon colony that was in the roof that has now been closed up, what remediation is there. Also, because of that water and the rain gutters, the water goes into the building, into the music room and things like that. So what would you do to ensure schools in Beaverbank get repaired?
So as an educator, and especially being an educator for 27 years and an administrator, I've been at a lot of schools. And it's amazing when you look at the inequity in different areas, different regions. Even in the Annapolis Valley, we have schools there that are, they're 50 years old or 60 years old. Oldfield Elementary is 1 year older than I am. I'm 58 years old. So those inequalities are just not fair, and we do need to do something about it. One of the things when you look at community, what we should be focusing on in education is how are kids doing in schools. We have our SACs and home and school, band parents associations, all of that stuff. And instead of putting our energies into those great things for kids to help kids grow, we're thinking about how to fix the roof and how to fix the leaks and how to fix a pigeon colony in the roof.
A school can be something that the community can use.
It should be a community hub.
That can be celebrated. There's no parent-teacher association or home and school at Monarch. There's just the SAC. Whether it's the impression, the SAC takes care of all those home and school things. It can be a place that can be used. That's obviously with elementary schools. It's recreation as well. There's recreation opportunities that we could build. And to have a building that you can be proud of.
That's right.
That you want to be a part of. That's a beautiful thing. Sure. That's a beautiful thing for a community that kids can go play. And families can go. As if some of the things are there, people will be there. And it takes care of some of that idle hand sort of thing and mischief sort of deal.
So it's funny, since the local government got rid of the elected school boards, and elected school boards for the most part were very effective. But I would be able to advocate with the elected school board to say, hey, we need to get this school on the list, or this school on the list, or this needs repairs. Now with the SACs, that direct link goes directly to the province. And for me, we've lost a layer of advocacy that we're able to go to. But I am absolutely willing to work with the principals, the community, to see what the issues are, and to take those on to the provincial level to say, hey, what's going on here? This is unjust and not fair. Like, we need staff and principals and the community to concentrate on educating our kids and moving them forward, not on, oh my gosh, we're here again today and we got another leak, so we need to move rooms, or we have no ventilation in here and kids are wearing masks. So.
Yeah, it's that deferred budget, that deferred maintenance budget.
That's right.
Is there a grasp of even what that is, or is that number correct? So we want to move into the next question. Woodbine is now our district's largest and most dense neighborhood of affordable housing. There's been long-standing concerns by its residents. Water meters were mandated to be installed on homes in Woodbine. Water quality issues are now at a terrible discoloration. Halifax water is tested at the park. The water is good going into the park. There was a notice from management that there was a spike in pressure causing damage to the park's pipes. Then no crosswalks are permitted to cross the Blind Crest coming up Dean's Hill by Chen's to get to that bus stop. There's a lack of public recreation facilities and programs for that kind of park area in that area of Beaverbank for youth. There's no operating homeowners association to represent homeowners with broad issues, to help them educate, to have a resource. Because issues with park management has been inconsistent in its requirements for homeowners. What would you do to help support and represent residents of Woodbine?
Well, number one, I will say, because it is a low-income housing, if you consider that terminology, that doesn't mean you have to have a substandard way to live. So the Residential Tenancies Act clearly states that if water is included in your contract, in your agreement, that means that the owner should be looking after water. So the thing is that a lot of people are calling out the owners of the park, but what we really need to do is call those owners into a conversation to help. And an association, a homeowners association, a park association is a great first step. And I would certainly help organize a community advocate system that they can communicate well with the park owners. And I think that's one of the key things in there, because nobody should be living in an area where they go to give their kids a bath or a drink of water that's coming out brown. So regardless of who's to blame, whether it was a high pressure that broke pipes or whatnot, it needs to be fixed. And that needs to be a priority. And when we look at that as the largest community, there are people in there with voices and there are people in there without voices. I met a lot of seniors when I was canvassing the park that probably aren't self-advocates. I met one senior there. His eyesight is failing. His wife is in Ivy Meadows. He can't drive any longer, and he needs a ramp going into his trailer for himself. And he's not the person that's going to write an application to try to get funding in order to get a ramp in there. And he has difficulty going to Ivy Meadows and doesn't know where his wife is going to go. So we do need an organization within the park that represents everybody at some level to work with the owners in the park. And, you know, it is really a sin that with the population in there and so many kids, that we don't have a recreation program right there, that we don't have a park right there. And those are places that bring family and communities together. And so I would absolutely advocate, and I would invite a homeowners association, and I would invite the owners into that conversation in order to start moving forward and improve it. Because there should not be substandard living within that park, especially when they're all paying the same rent.
And just to have a way to bring people together for the discussion and facilitating, creating that opportunity is valuable for people that just need to talk. They need some communication. They need a little bit. And if someone's suffering, you know, or has trouble just getting what they need for quality of life, you know, it's very important to have a resource like that.
Well, you know, an association, what they would do as well, you might have representatives on that association, but they listen to everybody else. And as a community, if somebody really needs help and they can't do it themselves, if other people knew about it, they could bring community together and they could help that person. It doesn't always have to be, we have to find funding here or funding there. But you know what? People can volunteer their efforts to help their neighbors if they know about it. The other thing, the Residential Tenancies Act says that everybody needs to be treated fairly and equally. And when you look at some of the people that I've spoken to in the park, they don't feel that. And whether that's a perception or that's truly happening, that's something that by facilitating homeowners or an association within the park, we could solve it. We could solve it faster.
So Beaverbank has had a significant loss of service. The bus route was shortened to half. We have greater frequency to get to Halifax. We had the closing of our largest employer, Ivy Meadows. We had the closing of the community hub office at the community center. The MLA office has always been in Fall River, Waverley. Now, it's hard to find a place in Beaver Bank, but would you commit to having your MLA office in Beaver Bank to provide a needed community resource?
So you know what? So we have spoken about this because Beaver Bank there's a lot of residents and it's an expanding community, and you do need representation and people do need access. Just as people aren't going to go to Sobeys in Fall River to do their groceries if they live in Beaver Bank, they're probably going to be a little hesitant unless it's something of a very serious nature in order to go into the Fall River area. So what I would commit to is certainly looking for an area and split and make myself available at probably in the Fall River area, because that's the central hub there, and then over here in the Beaver Bank area. I have no problem spending time over here and making myself accessible. I will always be accessible.
Yeah. And so Beaver Bank is unique as a riding, as residents shop and commute through Sackville, and the children go down to school down to Wingate to Lockview High. Beaver Bank has been split into two ridings and is now together for this election in this riding. What can be done to make better community connections, not just transportation?
Yeah.
What would be better community connections for Beaver Bank with Fall River and Waverley?
Yeah, and as I mentioned in the other forum, I'm not sure if Beaver Bank really wants to necessarily, except for schools, be connected, because Beaver Bank is very unique. You have your own organizations, you have your own facility and whatnot, and when people want to go to the school, it's like, well, you know, I'm going to go to get my groceries at Superstore, or I'm going to go to the drugstore, I'm going to go buy flowers, but they go to Sackville for that. But yet, I got to go see my kid, I got to drive across Wingate. So, okay, does that make sense? Well, politically, we have these lines drawn, but the way people live their lives don't fit with those political structures that we put in place.
Yeah,
and
we have a huge community where Beaver Bank goes this way. You're going up from North Beaver Bank down to the Averys and Stouffville, across. Waverley goes out to Dartmouth, and then you go all the way up to the big stop, and you have this sort of thing.
Right.
So, yeah, is it like a political line, or is it something that we could do things?
Well, it's an artificial political line, and that's what, you know, communities, counties, provinces, they're all an artificial line. But what I think to build community is that we really need to look at to talk to people in Beaver Bank and see what they really want. School is important. Lockview is an important hub. But if Beaver Bankers aren't using that as their community hub, then what is? So even schools, like my son played for the Fall River Rebels and Fall River Selects, you know, since he was this high. And there were people coming from Beaver Bank to play on the team, Sackville to play on the Selects team and whatnot. And but we never had a game in one of the schools there. It's because we don't have there's not enough facility and there's not enough time to get it. But you know what? We never had a practice down here. We could have used George P. Vanier for practices and whatnot, but you know, never down there at all. So I think that has to be part of that booking system. Let's look at the volleyball or basketball or some of the clubs and whatnot to use these facilities.
The community center has a community center. Like Fall River has the community center with the gym.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Beaver Bank has a community center without a gym. So the community center has worked hard and created a relationship where when you need a gym, you use one of the schools for a gymnasium. So it's some of those things that can be worked upon or improved, or if people need it, just getting them to know that it's there. But also, like, we need like a little professional strip mall where you can have a pharmacy or a doctor's office, or even space for an MLA office, some sort of community resource for Beaver Bank that we don't have. So we'll see.
If there were an easier connection, yeah. I had heard that there was a plan for Hedis, which is in Fall River, to connect over in Beaver Bank. So I don't
Oh,
know
head its way.
Head its way.
Okay.
So whether or not that would ever happen or not, but easier access and shorter access would make a big difference. Trails for four-wheelers and whatnot to go through and to kind of connect, because there's a lot of four-wheeling advocates in, you know, the Waverley, Fall River, all the way to...
You're right into the next question, which is good timing, because residents in Beaver Bank have had a couple issues that have gone before the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board that have caused great concern. The infamous Wingate Beaver Bank Road intersection. The last train was 12 years ago on the Windsor line, and the intersection is yet to be upgraded. The Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board found that the volunteer UNIAC Rails to Trails group wasn't the appropriate body to challenge the defunct Windsor Hands Rail company that's trying to lease or purchase, hold on for gypsum transportation. Now, they ruled that the Nova Scotia Department of Transportation Infrastructure renewal would be the appropriate body to challenge. So when we talk about trails and ATV, rails to trails, multi-use trails, going to Windsor, there's possibilities there, layers of complication with CN, federal government and everything. What would you do if elected?
So I would certainly look at why in other areas of the province have they been able to turn those into trails and we can't do it here. So even in Windsor, where the gypsum plant is, that is now paved over where the tracks were. So it's like, well, why isn't it done here? So if the appropriate body is going to be your provincial representative getting to with whatever committees I need to work with provincially, if it's TIR or environment or whatever, then you know what? I am absolutely willing to advocate for that, because that is something that I'll fight for. It just doesn't make sense to have the big lineups, and we have the danger of Beaver Bank Road, one way in, one way out, and not to get any love out here in Beaver Bank. And it's certainly something that I will work with people like you.
So, like Beaver Bank, we're people together with nature is the motto. And you look at Windsor Junction Community Center, where those wonderful volunteers have built a wonderful beach, an area for community to gather. And we have our baseball fields in our community center, although there's no sidewalk going down to it. So even someone getting off the bus, you know, they're going, it's kind of dangerous. So we have some things here that are being worked on, but there's nothing really Woodbine entryway as far as public spaces that could have a recreational opportunity. But with that rail line and that rail bed, if you have rails to trails and some connections, you know, even Capilano, Monarch, Rivendale, Woodbine, if you have that trail rail bed, we have access to Second Lake then.
Wow, yes. We would, yeah.
If there was four-wheeler trails, I mean, the opportunity to go to Windsor for lunch, or for people to come to the Beaver Bank Station.
Yeah.
You got horse riding, bicycles, all of that. And I actually went on the rails to trails down in Tantana last week on my four-wheeler. Nice slow drive, friendly. You get to wave to everybody and see some wonderful things at beaches. We have all these lakes and stuff. Kind of what we have lakes. We're together with nature, but we don't have that public access. Kind of got the ditch down into the water and no parking signs.
Steps on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Tucker Lake and Barrett Lake, but we don't have a public access.
So you know what?
Whether it's Beaver Bank Lake or what could we do to have like a picnic park, beach?
Yeah.
You look at Laurie Park in the Fall River. It's further out. But yeah, you have Laurie Park. You have these wonderful opportunities, whether it's camping or not camping. But to have a space,
So you know what? So my wife is an avid biker, and I like to join her. Try it once a week until the election, of course. but we use those trails extensively, and we'll go to the Bike and Bean, and so those are wonderful trails to bike on for exercise or to walk, or four-wheelers can use them as well. And you're right, we don't have those here, and that's a perfect example of a connector that you can enjoy community. Like somebody could bike from Oakfield and get themselves all the way up to Beaver Bank Station, or vice versa, because there's great stops along the way. The other thing that I've done in the past, we brought our group of students for 5 years in a row out to enjoy the lakes and the canals. Well, we took them on an overnight trip down through the canals, portaging, took them into Laurie Park, up to the canoe up tent sites they had there, and enjoying the waterways as well. So there's also a connection to the waterways that can be promoted.
Yeah, Beaver Bank has the largest ATV club in the province with 5,000 members. And it's the trail network that's like everyone, I'll just get on my four-wheeler and I'll go to Beaver Bank.
Yeah.
And that's on private landowners' property, and you have landowner agreements with the snowmobile club, with the drift climbers. And, it's if you create a loop or a trail network or a place to go to, it can make it safer. It can make it more affordable and enjoyable for families and young riders and things like that.
And it's a way to get people into nature as well. And a lot of people, I hear people complaining sometimes about four-wheelers, how noisy they are, how disruptive, but those aren't the law-abiding four-wheelers out there. Those are the people, just like people on the roads that go too fast, or they do, leaving strips and stuff on the highway. We get those as well, people on four-wheelers. But the law-abiding four-wheelers are really disadvantaged in Nova Scotia as well. I mean, you have to carry big gas tanks if you want to go, because you can't go onto the road for 75 meters to get to that gas station, or connect trail to trail. We have law-abiding citizens on four-wheelers that need to go 100 meters in order to get to the next trail, and in a sense breaking the law. So those things need to be looked at as well in order to make all the trails accessible.
So the next one is Monarch subdivision residents paid thousands of dollars for municipal water and services out of their own pocket without any funding from the federal or provincial government. While now other communities are receiving substantial government support. Just briefly, as we're on our half hour, what would you do as an MLA to see if there's anything the province can do now to lessen the burden for residents?
Well, so I have actually made a couple of videos on this and have commented several times that I think it's up to the developers in order to start giving money back into the community for some of the infrastructure that we need. So that would include water, that would include roads, that would include improving our schools and whatnot as well. And the other piece of that is that we have developers that are building houses on property, and then the property owners are drilling the wells. Some are getting next to no water, or if they did have good water, a few years later it goes bad. So I do believe that our developers need to contribute funding towards some of those initiatives.
So are you saying it would be extra money as they develop that would help a pre-existing neighborhood?
So I don't know if I can really do anything to help a pre-existing neighborhood that have already paid funds for water, and I really don't. And I don't mind looking into it, but sometimes to get things to go retroactive would be tough.
That's exactly where it comes down to.
Yeah.
It's a question that was asked, and that it's certainly something that.
But as the market goes, though, the market, if you're actually on municipal water, the market value of your house would go up than whether if you had a well. I mean, we had neighbors in Fall River that one neighbor had great water and the next neighbor didn't. I mean, we were very lucky to have really good water. Our neighbors across the street spent thousands of dollars remediating.
And some people see a house as an investment that can be sold and they can move as certain things come up. But then there's some people that are like, no, this is my home. This is my forever home.
Yeah.
And they want to be where they are.
Yes.
But certainly, it's great that they can reach out and find answers and find out. So, is there any little 1 minute, 2 minute thing else you would like to say as we wrap up?
Well, I represent all constituents, whether you are in Beaver Bank or whether or not you're in Lakeview or whether or not you're in Enfield or Fall River. I represent everybody, and that's the truth. And I have worked with community for 27 years, and as a high school administrator for 14 years, I work with families and students and community at all levels of government as well through being an administrator. So I am used to this. I'm not afraid to get my feelings hurt. I'm not afraid to take on challenges. I expect people to hold me accountable. And I expect no less from constituents. It's like, if you say you're going to do it,
Yes.
I do it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Lyle.
I really appreciate you coming to talk with us. We're at the Lions Club in Beaver Bank, and we really want to thank them for providing the space. And August 17th is your vote. The early poll is at the Brown Hall, and the returning office is in Fall River. And if you didn't know, you can vote from home. People have been hired to come and bring the ballot box to you, but you need to call and set up that appointment soon. So, yeah, we pay for it. This is our system. You can get out and vote.
And come down and visit the Lions Club. They have an incredible facility, and I'm going to show Lyle at the pool table right now.